Welcome to the Hillsborian Historian. My name is Rex, and this is my high school, Hillsborough High School, the oldest high school in the Hillsborough County public school system. And I graduated from here so very, very long ago. The hallowed halls of the Big Red echo with the stories of thousands of terriers. They come from across all the decades, and each is unique. Yet one terrier is called the greatest of them all. He is from the class of 1943. His name, Baldomero Lopez. Baldomero Lopez Day is observed each year by the city of Tampa. September 15th, 2025 marks the 75th anniversary of the death of this great terrier. I've told the story of Baldomero Lopez many times, but the great historian E.J. Salcines, my friend and my mentor, tells it the best, and we will soon see his presentation. This is HHS on the morning of September 15th, 2025. Over there, by the principal's office, is a permanent display honoring Baldomero Lopez. A constant reminder of the price of freedom. A military delegation arrived at Hillsborough High School to honor this hero. This is Baldomero Lopez Gardens. Later, Lieutenant General William J. Bowers, a three-star general, spoke to JROTC recruits in the media center. Eventually, everyone headed to Centro Asturiano, a few short miles away. The ballroom was arrayed in Baldomero's honor. Many attended this ceremony. Among the speakers we will see are Master of Ceremonies, Councilman Luis Vieira, retired Judge E.J. Salcines, all of Tampa history in one package, Lieutenant General William J. Bowers, Mayor Jane Castor, Hillsborough High School Principal Dr. Kevin Gordon. I want to thank WFLA for digitally preserving this event.
Too young to be accepted in the U.S. Navy, and he had to wait some 6 months before they accepted him in the Navy. He was going through basics, but he had been the commander of the ROTC. He knew all the commands. He knew the military style. He knew military science and tactics. And his superiors in the Navy said, hey, this kid is sharp. And he was plucked from the Navy and sent to the U.S. Naval Academy, where he graduated in the top third of his class. He had the option of being a naval ensign or a lieutenant in the Marine Corps, and he chose the Marine Corps. Today, we remember the dedication of Baldomero Lopez. Today, those of you that are visiting this historic building in historic Ybor City, you are sitting less than a mile and a half from his home at 3405 12th Street. You're sitting less than 2 miles from Cascaden Park, where he played. You're sitting very close to the Methodist Wolf Settlement. You are less than 2 miles away from Orange Grove Elementary, where Baldomero Lopez went to school. And of course, we are very close to Hillsborough High School, and General Bowers and his Marine delegation visited Hillsborough High School, which has a trophy case right next to the principal's office, and you'll soon hear from the principal. He was not the valedictorian. He was not the salutatorian, but he was the third highest academic graduate in the early class of 1943 as the class notable. He went on as a Marine officer to China when China was our friend. He spent almost 2 years teaching the Chinese that were our friends, and then he received orders to come to Camp Pendleton. He comes back to Camp Pendleton and receives orders that he's now to be a Marine instructor in Quantico. He gets on a transcontinental train, and the war in Korea starts. In every stop of that train, with his 10 cents or maybe 15 cents, certainly it was less than a quarter, to go to the payphone, and he made repeated calls. Please change my orders. I want to be with my unit. Well, after 5 calls, he arrived at Quantico, and guess what? They had changed his orders. So back to the train station, back across the continent, and he was able to join his unit. And now he was happy to be back with his unit on his way to Korea. In his Annapolis dormitory, today there is a historical marker in room number 3021 that says, in this room, a Medal of Honor midshipman lived. Baldomero Lopez enjoyed his days in Annapolis, but he was especially proud when he would go to the chapel. You see, the chapel is dedicated to Admiral David Farragut. And Baldomero Lopez identified with David Farragut because they were both sons of a Spaniard. David Farragut's father had come to help George Washington and Lafayette and Rochambeau and Bernardo de Galvez in our War of Independence. And Baldomero Lopez was proud that his father was a Spaniard from a small mountain village in northern Spain, San Tirso de Candamo, and his mother was an American-born daughter of Sicilians. Baldomero Lopez was trilingual. Of course, he spoke English, but from his father he learned Spanish. From his mother he learned Sicilian. And now he was on his way with his unit to Korea. It was a long journey. He was traveling on the USS Enrico APA-45 attack transport. It took them to that area of Korea. They didn't know that a major invasion was about to occur. But 3 weeks before he died, on that ship, the USS Enrico, he celebrated his 25th birthday on the 23rd of August, 1950, while sailing to Korea. That invasion, as the general will tell you, was part of a massive high-risk amphibious invasion behind North Korean lines. And I know that a representative from South Korea is here, and I know how proud they are. In fact, South Korea awarded posthumously Baldomero Lopez their highest medal. Ultimately, his troops were to use Higgins boats to offload on what they thought was a beachhead. But the reconnaissance flight the day before reported there is no beach. There is a 10-foot seawall. If you look at the famous picture of Baldomero Lopez leading his platoon, you see 2 makeshift step ladders. When it was reported that the Higgins boat could not drop and his men get off on the beach, that they needed to build some step ladders, they had to find some surplus lumber on that ship, the Enrico, and they built those step ladders that you see. General MacArthur, the mastermind of this invasion, was watching the events of the Incheon invasion from the USS Mount McKinley, AG-67. The historic battle started on a day just like today, September 15, 1950, 75 years ago. 5:30 a.m., General Quarters. First Lieutenant Baldomero Lopez fell in battle a little more than 12 hours later at 5:45. He went from a sleeping bag to a body bag in a matter of a little more than 12 hours. As he was in that Higgins boat and they were approaching the big seawall, by serendipity, there was a foreign correspondent who was in that boat reporting the events. And she heard a command, "Follow me." It was the Hillsborough High School graduate telling his platoon the command, "Follow me." she started snapping pictures. She saw Baldomero Lopez leading his platoon. You see, you don't know it's Baldomero Lopez, but he's the very first one that's going over the seawall. She reported not only what she heard, but that picture today is the leading picture of the Korean War. The same as we remember the Marines with the Mount Suribachi raising of the flag in the Pacific during the Second World War, which became the picture of the Second World War. This became the picture of the Korean War. As his platoon offloaded, they were being held down by 2 machine gun units that were keeping them down. Baldomero Lopez crawled and took one of his hand grenades and threw it into the first pillbox, eliminated that enemy machine gun. Now he was going to crawl to the second and do the same maneuver. But as he was coming up with his grenade to throw the grenade into the second pillbox, that machine gun ripped up Baldomero Lopez. And as he fell trying to grab that live grenade, he shouted to his men the last words that his unit heard: "Live grenade!" When he could not grab because he was too shot up, he decided to sacrifice himself and rolled his body onto the grenade and took the full blast. His commanding officer was Captain Stevens. I knew Captain Stevens when we were both invited to speak at Hillsborough High School many years ago. He told me, "EJ, when I saw him rolling onto that grenade and immediately instant death of Lieutenant Baldomero Lopez, I was not only shocked, but I wrote to General MacArthur, telling MacArthur the courageous sacrifice that the young man from Tampa had given to save his platoon. Lopez died in combat with the courage that makes men great. When MacArthur read the accounts of the superiors about Baldomero Lopez, he recommended the Congressional Medal of Honor. I must tell you that Hispanics, minorities, did not frequently get even considered for our highest military decoration, the Congressional Medal of Honor. But MacArthur was so impressed that his parents were invited to come to Washington, D.C. to receive the Medal of Honor posthumously on behalf of a very grateful nation. I mentioned to you about the picture, the last picture that we have of Lieutenant Baldomero Lopez going up the stairs. That famous picture was taken by Marguerite Higgins the same year that Baldomero died. That picture received such great national attention that she received the 1950 Pulitzer Prize for such a photograph. What devotion to duty, captured forever by Miss Higgins's camera. The telegram was received informing Mr. and Mrs. Baldomero Lopez here in Ybor City that their son had been killed in action. And they offered, "Do you allow us to bury your son here in Korea with his fellow Marines, or do you want us to send him back to Tampa?" The Spaniard and the Sicilian lady said, "Please send our son back." And the remains of Baldomero Lopez arrived here in Tampa on Mother's Day, the second Sunday in May of 1951. And he is buried in this club's cemetery, the Centro Asturiano Memorial Park, that we all visit, certainly every year on September 15, or Veterans Day, or Memorial Day. But we always stop to clean and to put Marine Corps flags or American flags on Baldomero's tomb. General Bowers and General Cortez and their delegation visited a little more than an hour and a half ago there, the Centro Asturiano Memorial Park, where Baldomero Lopez is buried. It was a few months after his arrival here that on August the 30th, 1951, Lieutenant Lopez's parents and his brother Joe, whose children are here today, traveled by railroad to Washington and received the Congressional Medal of Honor from the Secretary of the Navy, Dan Kimball. We don't forget Baldomero Lopez's sacrifice. We honor all of our boys and girls in uniform who serve and some who have given it all. We remember, we honor them. General MacArthur said, "Old soldiers never die, they just fade away." In Tampa, we don't allow any fading. We stand at attention. We salute. We remember all of those like the Villa brothers and Baldomero Lopez and so many others who were examples of selflessness and camaraderie. The mayor is going to be making a proclamation. Please listen to her words. Not only are they historic, but more importantly, they are very, very sincere. And so, we remember the events of 75 years ago, when Baldomero Lopez gave his life for freedom and democracy, even in a land that was not his land or his parents' land, but to keep the people of South Korea free. The night before Baldomero Lopez died, and Mike has given me a copy of that letter, Baldomero Lopez wrote a letter to his parents asking them not to worry that he was there because that's where he wanted to be. He could have been an instructor in Quantico and avoided the Korean War. But he had made the decision as the leader that he was, that he wanted to be with his Marine unit. And in the letter, he asks his father. They were both cigar makers here in the cigar factories of Ybor City. He asked his father for some good Tampa cigars. Today, 75 years to the day, I bring those, quote, good Tampa cigars and present them to General Bowers in sincere appreciation for his coming to Tampa. We have never had such a high-ranking Marine general come to Tampa. The highest that we had had was two-star General Chris Cortez, who is here and who was the ribbon-cutting official when we dedicated the Baldomero Lopez nursing home up in Land O'Lakes. So I hope the General will accept these cigars that Baldomero Lopez asked his father to send me some good cigars. May God bless and protect our men and women in uniform, together with our coalition of friendly nations, serving and defending our nation's liberty and freedom. And may God continue to bless America. Semper Fi. General, your cigars.
Thank you very much, Judge Salcines. And I can tell you guys this, I've been an attorney for 22 years and always been involved with our Tampa Hispanic Bar Association. And Judge Salcines is our George Washington, he is our Marlon Brando, he is our Lou Gehrig. He was the first. I mean it. He was. He's the one that we all look up to, all of us. Mexicanos, Puertorriqueños, Cubanos, todos nosotros, we all look Colombianos, we all look up to this man as attorneys. He's wonderful. I also wanted to mention, I see here Commander Butts with Post 167. Good to see you, ma'am. And I also wanted to recognize Pastor Glenn Dames with Allen Temple AME Church. Would be remiss if I didn't recognize you, sir. Next, it is my great pleasure and honor to present Lieutenant General William J. Bowers, who, as Judge Salcines said, honors us here today with his presence. Lieutenant General Bowers currently serves as the Deputy Commandant for Manpower and Reserve Affairs, commissioned in 1990 after graduating with distinction from Virginia Military Institute. He has served in every Marine Expeditionary Force across all elements of the Marine Air Ground Task Force and in much of the supporting establishment. Early assignments took him to the 1st Marine Expeditionary Brigade in Hawaii, Marine Corps Recruit Depot in San Diego, and 7th Engineer Support Battalion at Camp Pendleton. He later commanded a recruiting station in Lansing, Michigan, and continued his military education at Naval Command and Staff College and many other institutions. His operational experience includes deployment to Iraq with Multinational Force Iraq in command of the Marine Wing Support Squadron 273 during Operation Iraqi Freedom. From 2012 to 2015, Lieutenant General Bowers commanded the 6th Marine Corps District, followed by service as military assistant to the Assistant Commandant of the Marine Corps. Promoted to Brigadier General in 2017, he would serve as President of the Marine Corps University and Commanding General of Education Command, Commanding General of Marine Corps Installation Pacific, and Commanding General of Marine Corps Recruiting Command. His professional decorations include the Legion of Merit, the Bronze Star, the Defense Merit Service Battle, and many others. And in 1998, he was recognized as Combat Engineer Officer of the Year. Please join me in welcoming a great American hero, Lieutenant General William Bowers.
Well, thank you so much for that kind introduction. Good afternoon, Mayor, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests. Thank you all for coming out to this important event to honor the life and legacy of Lieutenant Baldomero Lopez. I first want to thank Judge Salcines for sharing with us the inspiring story of how Lieutenant Lopez came to be on that wall in Korea on September 15, 1950. I want to share with all of you how the legacy of what Lieutenant Lopez and his fellow Marines achieved at Incheon reverberates with us today and will far into the future. In June 1950, the North Korean People's Army, called the Inman Gun, crossed the 38th parallel and quickly pushed the United States forces down to a small perimeter in the southeast corner of Korea called the Pusan Perimeter. The 5th Marine Regiment, Lieutenant Lopez's unit, was holding on to a very tenuous grip of that southwest corner called the Nakong Bulge. As Judge Salcines reminded us, Lieutenant Lopez was on his way to Quantico to be a tactics instructor at the basic school when he received word of what was going on in Korea and used those dimes to see if he could get his orders changed to get back with his boys. While the Marines were holding on for dear life, the commander of American forces in the Far East, General Douglas MacArthur, envisioned a bold counterstroke, an amphibious landing at Incheon. Now, many of MacArthur's peers in the Army thought that the age of large-scale amphibious assaults was over. This was the atomic age, they told him, and large-scale amphibious assaults won't work anymore in the age of atomic weapons. But MacArthur had an ace in the hole. He knew that, hey, maybe the Army stopped believing in amphibious assaults, but I know the Marines haven't. So he contacted Lieutenant General Lemuel Shepard, the Commanding General of Fleet Marine Forces Pacific, and said, I'm envisioning a bold counterstroke. If you get me the 1st Marine Division, I'll land them at Incheon. General Shepard checked with his operations officer at the time, was a Colonel Victor Brute Krulak, and Brute Krulak said, we'll get the 1st Marine Division ready to go within 48 hours. And the orders went out. Later, General Shepard said, how did you know, asked General Krulak, how did you know 48 hours? Colonel Krulak at the time said, I didn't, but I know if we said no, we were dead. All of this was going on at the high level when Lieutenant Lopez was getting his orders changed. The 1st Marine Division obviously needed every man, every leader, every Marine they could get to launch this counterstroke. So indeed, the 1st Marine Division mounted up. They left Camp Pendleton. Lieutenant Lopez's orders were changed and he went back to Korea. They picked up the 5th Marine Regiment from the Nakong Bulge, and Lieutenant Lopez was indeed back with his Marines, and they sailed around the peninsula and indeed landed on 15 September 1950. As Judge Salcines reminded us, They didn't have the ladders when they got in those Higgins boats. They had manufactured them the night before. And the picture you see with Lieutenant Lopez leading his Marines over the wall at Inchon in the moments before he was killed will be seen by every Marine for the next 250 years as we celebrate our 250th birthday this year. Because one of the sayings in the Marine Corps is Marines lead by example. And there we see Lieutenant Lopez scaling the wall, leading his Marines by example, moments before he selflessly gave his own life to save his fellow Marines in his platoon. So what happened at Inchon? Well, 1st Marine Division, with leaders like Lopez, Lieutenant Lopez, did sever the North Korean Army's supply lines. They did liberate the capital of South Korea, Seoul, and the victory they achieved at Inchon ensured that there would be a Republic of Korea, South Korea, one of our stalwart allies in the Pacific, to this very day. And as we turn on our Samsung TVs at night and get in our Hyundais out in the parking lot and use the 5th generation microchips in our smartphone as we count South Korea as one of our stalwart allies in the Pacific with the 12th largest economy in the world, we're experiencing the legacy of Baldomero Lopez. Lieutenant Lopez and his fellow Marines helped achieve for our country. Let's look at the Marine Corps. What's the impact on the Marine Corps? Amphibious assaults were being questioned by leadership in the Army in 1950. The Marines believed in amphibious operations. They knew that as long as the globe is 3/4 water, there's always going to be a time and a place to land on an opponent's shore, surprise an adversary, and defeat our nation's enemies. Amphibious operations are alive and well in the Marine Corps today. Talk about leadership. We visited Lieutenant Lopez's junior ROTC unit earlier today, where we learned what an outstanding leader he was as the Cadet Brigade Commander. I'm happy to report to you that every Marine who goes through boot camp at Paris Island or San Diego, or goes through basic officer training, the basic school at Quantico, Virginia, will see the picture of Lieutenant Baldomero Lopez scaling the wall at Inchon as an example of leadership by example, and this will be the case for the next 250 years. Let's talk about the impact on recruiting. There was another company grade officer on the wall with Lieutenant Lopez that day, company commander named Captain Robert Barrow. He was leading Alpha Company, 1st Battalion, 1st Marines. His company would successfully land at Inchon and take part in the liberation of Seoul. And years after Inchon, when the country transitioned to an all-volunteer force, and we did not have leaders who understood the value of recruiting, Captain Barrow, one of the heroes at Inchon, who would later earn a Navy Cross during the breakout from the Chosin Reservoir, had studied this, and when he held my job, the Deputy Commandant for Manpower and Reserve Affairs for the great General Lew Wilson, the 26th Commandant of the Marine Corps, they would put in place the system of processes and techniques for attracting and inspiring young men and women of character to become Marines that we use to this day. And our recruiting is successful because of what officers like him insisted upon, that we only accept the very highest quality young men and women to become Marines. Now, I've talked about the impact on the world in the Pacific and South Korea. I've talked about the impact to the Marine Corps. Let's get closer to home now. Let's talk about what Baldomero Lopez means right here to the people of Tampa, because we have Major Ulysses Sosa and Sergeant Major Alvarez with us, and they are the leaders of Recruiting Station Tampa, one of the 48 recruiting stations that we have within the Marine Corps Recruiting Command. I'm very happy to report to you that the recruiting station headquartered right here in Tampa is the most productive of all of the recruiting stations we have within the Marine Corps Recruiting Command. And it's pretty clear to see why. Because the city of Tampa loves their military, and the city of Tampa really, really loves their Marines. And you can see this when, taking it a little closer to home, we were at Hillsbury High School earlier today. And we were talking to the junior ROTC unit there. And the Marine recruiter there has 4 young men and women already enrolled in the delayed entry program, ready to follow the legacy of Lieutenant Baldomero Lopez. We were there just talking to kids. Guess what? There's more young men and women who aren't old enough yet who are chomping at the bit, eager to get their shot at earning the title Marines. All of which is to say, the legacy of Baldomero Lopez is alive and well. His spirit is animating all of you here in Tampa. It's no secret why Tampa makes such great Marines and why this is such a wonderful city. So it's an honor to be here to honor the life and legacy of Lieutenant Baldomero Lopez. Thank you all for what you do. Semper Fidelis.
Thank you very much for that, General. Very inspiring and energetic, very energetic. It's just beyond words. Next, it is my great pleasure to welcome up here and introduce our mayor for the city of Tampa, Mayor Jane Castor. And we all know Mayor Jane Castor well before she was our mayor. She served for over 3 decades in Tampa Police Department, rising to the position as our first female chief of police, where she demonstrated valor again and again and again as TPD, a woman who is no stranger to running into situations that people run away from as a Tampa police officer. So please help me welcome our Mayor Jane Castor.
Lieutenant Baldomero Lopez as our local hero. He is truly an American hero, and he symbolizes those values that define the city of Tampa. Those values of service, of courage, and of sacrifice. And although he did make the ultimate sacrifice in Korea, he stood for so much more here in our community. And we couldn't be more proud to call him a hometown boy. So this is a wonderful, wonderful day. And it does carry a special meaning as well, as was brought up by my good friend, Councilman Vieira, and also our distinguished Judge Salcines, that it has special meaning to Tampa's Hispanic community. As you heard, he was born in Ybor City, raised in our neighborhoods, and went on to become a national hero. Knowing that a Medal of Honor recipient shares their roots of the Hispanic community brings deep pride for many in our community, especially those that wear the uniform. So honoring Lieutenant Lopez today is a reminder of how one person's courage can inspire pride, unity, and a shared sense of purpose across our entire city. So today it's my great honor on behalf of the city of Tampa to provide a proclamation to the Lopez family. And I don't know if Mike Lopez can come up here as a representative for the family so I can present this to you. Come on up, Mike. How are you, sir? I'm not going to read the whole thing.
Okay.
Whereas the son of the first lieutenant Baldomero Lopez was born in New York City, Florida on August 23rd, 1925. He grew up playing sports, delivering newspapers, and as we've all heard, attended Hillsborough High School, where he was the commander of the Reserve Officers Training Corps and graduated third in his class. Also at the Naval Academy in Annapolis in 1943. He loved the physical and volunteered to serve in the United States Marine Corps. We've heard about his sacrifices and later commemorated each during the Marine Charlie on September 15, 1950, where he gave his life for his country over 7 decades ago, and also for his heroic actions. He received the Purple Heart, which was posthumously presented in the Congressional Medal of Honor, and also the community has recognized his gallantry with memorial tributes located downtown Tampa and at the Sports Complex, Veterans Memorial Park, and the Korean War Veterans Association local, Lieutenant Baldomero Lopez, the Medal of Honor, Chapter 175, and the Quantico Basic Schools, Lieutenant Baldomero Lopez Honor Graduate Award. And those are just a few of the honors that in this facility. So on this day, which he gave his ultimate sacrifice to our nation, the city of Tampa and the States are here to celebrate him as our local and national hero. Now, therefore, I should ask the virtue of the authority vested in me as mayor of the city of Tampa, Florida, to hereby proclaim Monday, September 15, 2025, as First Lieutenant Baldomero Lopez Remembrance Day in the city of Tampa, Florida, and urge all citizens to join me in honoring the life and legacy of First Lieutenant Baldomero Lopez, and to recognize his bravery and the extreme sacrifice he made on behalf of all of us, and pay tribute to our hometown hero in his final resting place in Cicero Serrano Memorial Park Cemetery. Congratulations. To the Lopez family, and thank you to every individual who has raised their hand and taken an oath to serve our country and our community. May God bless each and every one of you and keep you safe. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mayor Castro. We appreciate that. I also wanted to acknowledge, I'd be remiss if I didn't, our other Medal of Honor recipients here in the city of Tampa. Ronald Ray, who is still with us, who is a University of Tampa graduate and got the Medal of Honor for his service in Vietnam, and the late Paul Ray Smith, who gave all in Iraq, who was a Tampa Vo-Tech graduate, who is buried at Arlington. He passed on a very young man, so God bless them, and we remember them always. Next, it is my great pleasure to introduce Hillsborough High School Principal Dr. Kevin Gordon for remarks. We are pleased to welcome Dr. Gordon, Principal of Hillsborough High School. Hillsborough High School is the oldest high school in the county and is the alma mater of Lieutenant Baldomero Lopez, who graduated here in 1943. Dr. Gordon, please come forward, sir.
Good afternoon, everyone. See, when you're the little kid on the block, you don't get someone to give you an intro. So I had to bring my own bio with me. I've been in this business for almost 38 years, educating our future. I've been a principal at every level, that's elementary, middle, and high school, and I also did 6.5 years at the St. Petersburg College. But it's my extreme honor and privilege to be the leader of Hillsborough High School for the past 3 years, going on my 4th year. So I bring you greetings on behalf of Hillsborough County Schools, the school board, and Superintendent Van Ayers from the Big Red. You've already heard about the legacy of Lieutenant Baldomero, so I'll try to add a little bit to that, but a lot has been said about his greatness and the legacy that he's left behind. It was an extreme honor and privilege to have General Bowers and his delegation to come and visit our youngsters today, to interact with them and to also speak with them. We are still in the business at Hillsborough High School in the junior ROTC program there of educating future leaders, not just for the military, but in life. They learn discipline, they learn respect, they learn courage, they learn honor, and they take that with them when they leave the walls of our high school. So that legacy that Lieutenant Lopez was a part of when he walked the halls of Hillsborough High School is still alive and well. And the junior ROTC program at Hillsborough High School is flourishing. Now, as was mentioned earlier, Hillsborough High School is one of the oldest high schools in Florida. And by far, it's the absolute most beautiful high school anywhere. So if you haven't had an opportunity, just 2 miles down the road, come and see it. Now, in 2 more years, it'll be 100 years old. And our alumni with President Mr. Albini is here, and we're raising funds to help with that 100-year celebration. So if you feel so compelled to do so, please contribute to the Hillsborough Alumni Association to help them with this magnificent celebration that's going to be coming up in 2 years. To tell you a little bit about the school, it's still flourishing. We have a number of vocational programs there that we give students the opportunity to go into welding, cosmetology, and botany. So we still offer many, many opportunities for our students. And so I want to just say thank you for the opportunity to be here. It's an honor to be asked to speak on this momentous occasion to celebrate one of Tampa's and Hillsborough's finest sons who made the ultimate sacrifice so that we can preserve the freedoms that we all work so very hard for. Thank you for being here. I know it's been a long day and you all have taken time out of your busy schedule to be here. So thank you for being here, and if you feel so compelled, come by and see us at the Big Red. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. We appreciate your remarks. As our final speaker to bring greetings, it is my great pleasure to welcome Mr. Mike Lopez. Come forward, sir, who is and let's give him a round of applause, who is the very proud nephew of Lieutenant Baldomero Lopez. He's here with his family, including his wonderful sister and others who are here. And, like Judge Salcines said, Tampa doesn't forget their heroes, from Francisco Rodriguez to Lieutenant Baldomero Lopez to Jesse Madsen today. We don't forget our heroes. So please help me welcome Mr. Mike Lopez.
Thank you. On behalf of my family, it's an honor to be here today. I'd like to thank everyone involved in honoring and keeping my uncle's legacy alive. It's amazing that after 75 years, the sacrifices and his actions and sacrifices are still remembered and honored. Our family is extremely grateful for the continued recognition of my Uncle Baldy's sacrifice. I've had the honor to meet a number of Marines over the last several decades, being involved in different things like this. There's one thing that I could always truly say is all the Marines are a special breed. Thank you. Appreciate it, everybody.
Thank you, sir. We really, really appreciate you 100%. I wanted to, and that was our last speaker. Thank you, sir. So there's one thing I did want to mention, which is, there were talked about, and I'm so glad to see we have a representative here from South Korea. It tells you a lot. I always say that the United States is a decent country. We are a decent country. We have a lot of decency in us. And for me, the Korean War, imagine that 5 years after going through the hell of World War II, over 500,000 Americans gave all. And 5 years after that, when North Korea crossed the, 38th parallel and went into South Korea, President Truman summoned yet again Americans to go to war 5 years after the most terrible war we had ever seen. And 36,000 Americans gave all over 2.5 years so that South Koreans could be free. Folks, that's what a decent country does. That's what a decent country does. And we always remember that. And saving South Korea from communism, something that my parents fled in 1960 from Cuba. So I think that's something very important to note. I would like to bring forward to talk about something the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are going to be doing. Chief of Staff John Bennett, who did so much for here today. John Bennett is the silent man on everything that happens here in the city of Tampa. A fine gentleman and more Catholic than the Pope, John Bennett. Come on.
Thank you, Councilman. Just a few comments real quick before we close. First of all, what a great day to be part of this Tampa community. It humbled my heart listening to these stories that Mayor Castor and myself, and I see Major Alex Steele in the room, among others, that were able to be on those grounds of Quantico and the FBI National Academy where Lieutenant Lopez served this country. So that was a unique connection for us sitting in this room today. Next, I want to thank the Planning Committee, especially Judge Salcines, Louis Vieira's office with Brandon, our marketing communications team, and our community engagement team to put this special ceremony together. And then last, as Councilman Vieira said, I have a relayed message from our Tampa Bay Buccaneer family who are playing away tonight, that they're going to do a special honoring of Lieutenant Lopez at the first home game on September 21st, and they're going to celebrate that game in his honor. So they asked me to relay that message to our Tampa community, and Lieutenant Lopez is clearly part of Tampa Bay. So thank you.
I'd like to invite for a closing benediction, Colonel DJ Reyes, if you come back up, sir, for it. We appreciate you. And one thing I do want to add is, again, over the next year, we are working on, we have the artist who's here, a life-size statue of Lieutenant Lopez that will be near the Riverwalk. So we're very excited about that. So Colonel Reyes, if you could, sir.
Before I give you the benediction, I would just like to mention something that General Martz just mentioned to me, which kind of shook me up a little bit, but in a very good way. He shared with me that at the Baldomero Lopez nursing home in Land O'Lakes, there actually is an old Marine who was there, who was with Baldomero Lopez and those men at that historic landing. And so I guess the takeaway for me is that the spirit of Baldomero Lopez lives on, and it's in the flesh, and it will never leave any of us. And with that, please let us pray. Heavenly Father, our hearts are full today. Thank you for blessing us today and for honoring our community with a true hero and patriot. As Baldomero charged up the seawall, let this also serve as a charge to all of us.
And so a school, a community, and a city honored its fallen son, remembering that freedom is not free. Some of the words of First Lieutenant Baldomero Lopez's last letter to his family echo across the ages, inspiring so many even today. He wrote, "Knowing that the profession of arms calls for many hardships and many risks, I feel that you all are now prepared for any eventuality. If you catch yourself starting to worry, just remember that no one forced me to accept my commission in the Marine Corps." Thank you for watching, and my thanks to all who honor and celebrate the legacy of First Lieutenant Baldomero Lopez.